What is a modern mystic? Well, let's take a look first at what a mystic is. A mystic is someone who believes in the existence of realities beyond human comprehension. A mystic is someone who has an experience of union with the One. And the One may be God, it may be Mother Earth, it may be the cosmos. But that experience is where you momentarily forget that you are a separate ego, personality, or self, and you experience interconnectedness with all that is. So, what is a mystical experience? Well, there are events that can shake up your world in a single moment. It could be anything like an out of body experience, visitation by ghosts or spirits, psychic experiments, knowings. I'd like to tell you about one of my own experiences. Many of you know my husband, Pete, and that he had a heart transplant 14 years ago. When that happened, he collapsed at home. I called 911. We got him to the hospital here in South Haven, and they wanted to transport him by ambulance to Kalamazoo. So the ambulance driver said, "No, don't try to follow us. Don't try to catch up. More accidents happen that way. Just go at the legal speed limit, and you'll get there fine." So I did. Now, I was a wreck. I was a nervous wreck, okay? We'd only been married 9 months, and I'm driving along and praying with my eyes wide open. And I'm saying, "Dear God, I have to know, is he going to make it? Is he going to make it?" And then I suddenly had this boom, this knowing. And this is the knowing. Yes, he will make it, but there are things he will have to go through first. Those were the exact words. Yes, he will make it, but there are things he will have to go through first. Now, that wasn't a mountaintop experience, but it was a big experience for me because that message did not come from my rational mind at all. No, it came from somewhere else. And it came in such a way that I could not do anything but believe it was absolutely true. And it turned out to be absolutely true. He did have to go through, he did have to go through a lot of things. And he's still here. So what I would like to do is share with you names of some of the well-known mystics, some well-known, some not so well-known, in history. I could have chosen hundreds of them, but I narrowed it down to 4 or 5. So here we go. The first one is Hildegard of Bingen. Hildegard was born in 1098, and she was one of the earliest known mystics. Even when she was a child, she started having visions of God. Later in life, she formed an abbey, and she became quite prominent. And she wrote down all these visions that she had in detail, everything from natural history to music. And the popes, the bishops, and kings consulted with her. She was so prominent and so wise. She was canonized in 2012. Here are some quotes from Hildegard. "Humanity, take a good look at yourself. Inside, you've got heaven and earth and all of creation. You're a world. Everything is hidden in you. Glance at the sun. See the moon and the stars. Gaze at the beauty of the earth's greenings. Now, think. The soul is not in the body. The body is in the soul." Another great mystic is Saint Francis of Assisi. He was born in 1181, was an Italian Catholic mystic, a friar, a preacher. He's one of the most venerated and mythologized religious figures in Christian history. He was on a pilgrimage to Rome at one time, and he joined the poor begging at St. Peter's Basilica. That experience moved him to live his life in poverty. He returned home, he began preaching on the streets, and soon he gathered followers. In 1224, he received the stigmata, the wounds in the palms of his hand and on the side that mirrored what Jesus suffered on the cross. and he was canonized in 1228, proclaimed a patron saint of animals and the environment, and one of two patron saints of Italy. It has been argued that no one else in history was as dedicated as Francis to imitate the life of Jesus. Some quotes from St. Francis. All things of creation are children of the Father and thus brothers of man. God wants us to help animals if they need help. Every creature in distress has the same right to be protected. He also said, go out and preach the gospel, and if you must, use words. Now I'd like to share with you something about Teresa of Avila. Teresa was born in 16th century Spain. She spent her childhood studying the lives of Christian saints and martyrs. Oops, let me get this in a better spot for you. There we go. When she joined a monastery when she was a very young age, she started experiencing what she called a prayer of union, during which her soul was completely absorbed by the power of God. In these mystical experiences, as well as healing a young boy who had been crushed by a fallen wall, it was these things that convinced the Catholic Church to canonize Teresa in 1662. Teresa said, let nothing upset you. Let nothing startle you. All things pass. God does not change. Patience wins all it seeks. Whoever has God lacks nothing. God alone is enough. And then we have Buddha. Ask any person anywhere in the world to name a famous mystic, and they're very likely to say Buddha. He was born sometime around 500 BC, and he's famous for the lessons that form the foundations of modern-day Buddhism. The essence of his teachings is to find a middle way between sensual indulgence and severe asceticism. That's a hard word, asceticism. As an enlightened man, he was able to achieve full Buddhahood. His oral teachings have been passed down for centuries. What did Buddha say? Among other things, he said, the root of all suffering is attachment. Whatever precious jewel there is in the heavenly worlds, there is nothing comparable to one who is awakened. You cannot travel the path until you have become the path itself. So those are some mystics from way in the past, and I'd like to share with you some modern mystics. And when I say modern, anyone who worked from 1900 through today, okay? And of course, one of our favorites is Hamid Bey. Hamid Bey was trained by Coptic masters in Egypt during the early 1900s. His early fundamental principles of self-mastery led him to the ultimate goal of complete mastery on the physical, mental, and emotional levels. His early testing and training put him in life situations where he was taught humility, which he felt was the foundation of spirituality. In the late 1920s, he met Paramahansa Yogananda, and they traveled together throughout America. They were two of the earliest and greatest pioneers of the metaphysical movement. And here are some quotes from Hamid Bey. My ability, unusual as it may be, is entirely the result of work and efficient training. Under similar circumstances, any normal person might have accomplished as much or perhaps more than I. Everyone needs to know that all live life after life, here or elsewhere, according as we have progressed and need certain experiences which may be gained only on one planet of another solar system situated millions of miles away. Whew! The next mystic I'd like to share with you may surprise you. His name was Albert Einstein. Born in 1879, the Nobel Prize laureate was a German-born theoretical physicist Oops, sorry, too close. Physicist who, along with quantum mechanics, is one of the, who developed the general theory of relativity. Along with quantum mechanics, it's one of the two pillars of modern physics. And here are some quotes from Einstein. There are only two ways to live your life, as though nothing is a miracle or as though everything is a miracle. Two things are infinite, the universe and human stupidity, and I'm not too sure about the universe. And something most people don't know is that he was a very accomplished musician. He played the violin and played with major orchestras during his time. I live my daydreams in music. I see my life in terms of music. I get most joy in life out of music. And then we have Emily Dickinson. She was an American poet and nature mystic. Born in Massachusetts to a prominent family, she lived most of her life introverted and reclusive. Her poetry was not really known until after her death, but she's now considered almost universally to be one of most important American poets. She was not religious per se, but she kind of fit into the category of SBNR, spiritual but not religious. But far from snubbing God, she simply insisted on no less than first-hand experience of God. A quote from her: "Some keep the Sabbath going to church. I keep it staying at home with a hot bobolink for a chorister and an orchard for a dome." One of my favorite poems that she wrote is, "Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tunes without the words and never stops at all." And then we have Edgar Cayce. Edgar Cayce was an American mystic born in 1877 who possessed the ability to answer questions on subjects such as healing, reincarnation, wars, Atlantis, and future events. All of this while he was in a trance. These answers came to be known as life readings. Cayce founded a nonprofit organization, the Association for Research and Enlightenment, that included a hospital and a university. He said that he could see auras around people. He spoke to angels and heard voices of departed relatives. His methods involved lying down and entering into a sleep state, usually at the request of a subject who was seeking help with health or other personal problems. Now, this is a quotation from him that has borne fruit. "Great numbers of children will be born who understand electronics and atomic power as well as other forms of energy. They will grow into scientists and engineers of a new age which has the power to destroy civilization unless we learn to live by spiritual laws." Mary Ann Williamson. Born in 1952, an American author, spiritual leader, and political activist. She has written 13 books and founded the Project Angel Food, a volunteer food delivery program for people who are homebound with AIDS or other life-threatening illnesses. She also co-founded the Peace Alliance, a nonprofit education and advocacy organization supporting peace-building projects. Mary Ann said, "Modern mystics form a kind of spiritual underground in the world today, seeking to transform everything. We are everywhere, as mystics have always been everywhere. We come from every religion, as mystics have always come from every religion, and some of us relate to no religion at all. The mystical realm lies beyond all dogma and beyond the evidence of the physical senses. The mystic has been called to an inner journey through the darkened entanglements of human existence to the radical love at the heart of God." So those are some more contemporary mystics There are so many, it was really hard to choose. But now I want to ask you, are you a mystic? Do you know any mystics? Do you want to be a mystic? So here's some questions. Here are 10 questions or statements that you can decide for yourself. You can count them up on your fingers if you want to. Number 1, personal experience is more important to you than doctrine. Mystics want to experience the divine and peace and universe and all of that. And they're not happy with somebody just telling them what to believe. Number 2, you ask a lot of questions. Mystics are curious. We want to know how the university works and why. We are the researchers of the spiritual world. Number 3, you won't take "because I said so" for an answer. Mystics don't like to be told, this is the way it is. We want more backup before we will adopt a spiritual tenet as a belief for ourselves. Number 4, you will value intuition and the intuition of others. Intuition is basic to a connection. Intuitive perceptions are a powerful part of our mix during spiritual seeking. Number 5, you're uncomfortable with religious and spiritual hierarchies. We believe anyone can experience divinity to some extent, that it's not limited to those who take a vow or join an order or spend years studying scripture. Number 6, you tend to be a rule breaker. Mystics are often spiritual rebels, even those that are now revered as historical figures like Teresa of Avila or Joan of Arc. Number 7, you believe in internal rather than external measures of spiritual growth. It's all about awareness. External rituals and spiritual practices are meant to trigger internal insights. We don't perform them to please a higher power or to get spiritual brownie points. They're catalysts. 8, you believe power comes through you, not from you. Number 9, you believe that love comes through you, not from you. It's the ultimate source of life for every mystic, regardless of their religious tradition. And number 10, mystics acknowledge that the universe is infinite and mysterious and that there will always be more that we don't know about it than what we do know. And that keeps us humble. Number 11, mystic, if you have inner peace or quickly return to a place of inner peace because you know down to your core that this life is only one dimension of reality, right? So if we have that inner peace, we may be a mystic. And 12, a mystic knows that there is life before and after this one. So what do you think? Are you a mystic? I'd like to close with a quotation from Marianne Williamson. The mystical realm arises from a different mode of perception than the one we are used to. The human race now stands on the brink of a historic transformation with new eyes, new ears, new minds, and new hearts emerging from the cosmic drama of human evolution. As an embryo becomes a baby, we are becoming a new, more spiritualized version of ourselves. We are growing mystical wings as we evolve, as any species evolves. And in that direction, that supports our survival. We are moving now towards a universal compassion because if we do not, we will cause our own extinction. To be a mystic is to choose rebirth for ourselves and for the human race. We are participating in a collective quantum leap forward in which our species will experience a fundamentally new chapter in our history. And I leave that with you with love and blessings.